Hey, it's the Love and Your Wake podcast, and we're so glad that you've joined us today. Together with Isaac Troop and Jemma Troop, we're diving into theology to talk real life and learn how we, like Jesus, can leave love in our wake. I'm Bethany Thompson. Let's go. Hello, Isaac and Jemma.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the table.
Hey, how we doing?
Yeah, so maybe tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do, maybe,
what's
too.
to say? I'm the young adults pastor at Encounter Church. I'm Isaac, if you couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I am the young adults pastor here, as I said. I have a couple of other things that I do in my life. I work in a school. I have some business ventures, things
What
that
don't
I
you
do
do?
as well. What don't I do? Yeah, that's
That's
the real question.
I love music and all things like that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Is this your first time on our podcast?
I believe so. Yes.
You believe so, don't remember, but we
I
believe
don't
so.
remember.
If you're listening and you believe not so, let us know. Jemma, tell us about you.
Hi, I'm Jemma Troop. I'm married to Josiah Troop, and together we run the youth ministry at Encounter Church together. But yeah, outside of that, my life includes working in human resources, doing a lot of hobbies, hanging out with friends, and yeah, that's me.
That's
board
pretty
games,
cool.
lots of board games.
Lots of board games.
And we
Yeah.
have had Jemma on the podcast before, so it's pretty cool to have you back. And you would
I
know
believe so. Yes,
that
I
there's someone
believe so.
missing. Pastor
There is.
Ben is missing,
Yes.
and actually last week he did his own, just solo. So you got him all last week, and then he thought, now that was enough, so none of him this
Yeah.
week.
We've had our Ben Teefy dosage.
Yeah.
Truth be told,
This-
he's on holidays.
Yeah.
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 This week you get Love and You Wake with Pastor Ben Teefy without Pastor Ben Teefy. Just to spice it up a little bit.
Yes.
So just maybe heart this extra lots.
Yes. Make sure he knows that you like this one better.
Yeah, that's right. All right, well, we've been talking about growth in our church since the start of the year. But even if you don't attend Encounter Church, growth and growth barriers is an incredible conversation to be having, whether it's in your God community or your own personal lives. And so today we want to talk about growth barriers, particularly when it comes to mental and emotional ones and the things that can fracture us and kind of put a giant wall in front of us instead of growth. And so both of these guys that they just said, youth and young adults is where you've been sitting. And so tell me, both from your personal lives, but also your ministry experience, what are some of the growth barriers when it comes to this part of our lives?
What are some of the growth barriers? I feel like one that I have been just thinking on lately has just been like the voice of the inner critic. Because, as you said before, I'm the youth pastor. And one thing that I see a lot in even more in sort of like the upcoming generation is just the fact that in today's environment where everything is so online, and usually the tone of those online environments are really
Encouraging.
where the tone of things is often very mocking, super attacking, that you almost see even more than ever before that people have this like overdeveloped inner critic where they're so used to hearing judgments of people and mocking people that it's like even when they go to try something new themselves, it's like there's that voice of anxiety of being like, oh, I'm going to do this thing wrong, I'm going to be perceived in this way, seems to be so much louder than ever before. And I think can be such a massive barrier to growth, just because if you're so terrified of doing something that's outside of your comfort zone, then you never step out of your comfort zone, and if you never step out of your comfort zone, then you can never grow.
So tell me that voice of the inner critic, which I think a lot of people do have, and maybe it's quite alive in some of the people you're ministering to. Do you think that the online world creates it or adds fuel to an existing fire?
I would say adds fuel to an existing fire, just because
so
I feel like
something underneath.
I
Especially
wouldn't.
in youth. It adds fuel to an already
Oh, yeah.
self-depreciating aspect of your life where it's, I don't know, as a youth, you're going through puberty, you don't feel great about yourself,
Yeah,
you know,
sure,
and then to add the outside critic to the inner critic as
Really
well.
like affirms what you're already...
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think a lot of things with is that anxious voice often says like, everybody's looking at me, everybody's watching me, everybody's going to see when I make a mistake. And in your normal life, that is actually just not reality. As in, like, you know, most people are not watching you, most people are not remembering your every mistake that you make. But when you live in this online environment, it's like, you know, every moment that's recorded can be commented on, can be seen, can be perceived. So it just definitely amplifies that voice of feeling like always being watched, always being judged, always having someone who's critical of you. So I think it does add fuel to the fire, but there's definitely just a human tendency that exists there as well, because I wouldn't be presumptuous enough to say that before the invention of the internet, no one had inner criticism.
And that there wasn't outside critics as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So I think there is a human tendency to be self-critical there, but I do
definitely.
think that social media and the online environment definitely just piles fuel on that fire.
Yeah.
What
And-
about you? Do you have another one that you would say?
well,
sorry, you were gonna say
even on
something.
that, a thought that came to mind is so I work a lot with young people and music. So running the youth band here at Encounter Church, and in that space is like it's there's a lot of insecurity in that space because it's a lot of young people trying to develop a very creative craft, which can be very vulnerable, like inherently very vulnerable, because you're sharing something, a skill that you've fostered and developed at a rather young age with a rather judgmental group of people, right? So
It's all going against you.
and I've had a young person once who like they've been going through like the challenge of they had said to me, "Oh, Isaac, I don't think I want to do youth band anymore." I was like, "What? But you're great. Why would you want? You're doing so well. You're making moves. You're doing quite well at stewarding the gift that you got, which is good. And all these things." And then I'm probing the issue a little bit further, and they were like, "Oh well, my friends just said I did horribly."
Oh, wow.
My friends, after I got off stage, so they'd done like something on stage for the first time, and their friends were also there, and then they got off stage, and their friends said that they did horribly.
Wow.
And in the back, I was like, I was quite upset when I heard that. I was like, that's
for
such a
sure.
lie. Why would? Oh, and I did prompt the conversation further. I was like, I think you might need to check your life, because I'm not sure those are your best friends. Because if that's what they said to you after you just did something quite significant and shared a vulnerable part of your life to bless other people, because inherently that's what they were trying to do, is they're trying to bless other people with their gift. But then as soon as they got off stage, there was just some nasty comments said to them, which even it kind of probed the question further, is maybe seeing other people doing something that requires a lot of self-belief or confidence in oneself, seeing someone else doing when you're insecure about yourself, you can only see that and want to tear it down, because it only holds up the mirror to you, or even it might hold the mirror up to a lot of other things. But like maybe for a young person, maybe it's that idea of, oh wow, that person's doing something I wish I could be doing, but I don't think I could cross the line and be able to share that part of myself yet, because of that inner critic, that lack of self-belief as well. Like leaving them in a position of, what do I do with these feelings, these unresolved feelings? I don't know what to do with it, so I'm just going to make sure I don't feel that way by making sure that person doesn't do it again. And holding that mirror up to me not doing anything with my things that I want to share.
And it can be too that they're like, you've obviously highlighted their friends, but people's entire families or actual community can be those types of people that are more about tearing someone down rather than lifting them up, which means that the growth barrier is nearly like, I come from a dysfunctional family culture. I come from a place of dysfunction. And then to step out of that, how do you do that when everything you've known is to pull and to tear down? To then make your way out of that is it's significantly different and against everything that has been done and et cetera, which then isn't just a few like friends at school and you think, oh, well, maybe you could find some other friends. It's like actually everybody in my life is like this.
That's the environment they're embedded.
And how do I then swim against that when the river is quite strong?
Yeah, such a big question. I feel like there is part of it that is, as Isaac was saying, is finding another community where it's like, people actually value you and you have another voice, input into your life that wants you to grow and be shaped differently. But I think a massive part of it as well is just having that intentional reflection to understand the way that your past, your family history, your environment has shaped you, and making an intentional decision of being like, all right, I actually don't want to be like that. As in, I can see that the family that I've grown up in and the things that I've experienced is wanting to shape me a certain way, that it's given me specific wounds, and that it's actually made it harder for me to succeed in these areas, because now I'm carrying this baggage and I'm carrying these problems. But I think part of the thing that we often see when like conversations that we have to have with young adults who have graduated up from youth is that I think a lot of the time that when you're a kid, you can there's sort of like a lot of grace for the fact that you haven't had control over how you've been parented, over how you've been raised, over the environment that you've come from. You carry stuff that, you know, it is not your fault, that you had no part in in picking up and in having those wounds be created. But then when you sort of transition into being an adult, that you have to start to take responsibility for the fact that, like, if I want my life to flourish, then like I'm responsible for my own growth. No one else is.
Yes.
The world around me, I can't expect the world around me to sort of coddle me or to create an environment that fixes all my problems or caters to all of my issues so that I can grow. But yeah, at some stage, if you really do want to become everything that God's called you to be, then you do actually need to take a moment where you realize, oh, this is the way I've been shaped, and I don't want to live like that. And then actually say, well, I guess I'm responsible for the next steps. I'm responsible for figuring out, okay, if I want to become someone who's, you know, maybe less insecure and more confident, if I want to become someone who's not being dragged down by guilt, then I need to figure out what are the steps to do that. Like, how do I move forward in that area? And then I think, because obviously everyone's situation and family background is so individual, that it's hard to make like one sweeping, you should do this, that this will fix all your problems. Sure. But yeah, I think there's just an element of personal responsibility in saying, like, you know, I'm choosing that I want to break those cycles, that I don't want to be end up in the same patterns that maybe my parents or my family or my community is in. And then, figuring out what are the intentional steps that I need to take to break out of that.
It's interesting too, because that is actually really hard to swallow. That I have to...
It's a big pill
to
swallow.
It is a massive thing, especially as a young adult, where... I think our world does do well to think, oh, you've got a problem, someone else needs to fix it. I think our world does well at that at the moment, which is not a good thing. And so we're then realizing, hang on a second, we need to create resilience. And so the Resilience Project now comes into all of our schools and things. But you know, when you're a kid and you're in a running race, right? And everyone starts at the starting line. But occasionally there's a running race where they let some other kids go ahead. So they kind of get a head start. Even the other day, we were having a family swimming race. And it was like, okay, Judah and Harmony, you can go first, and then Ariel, and then Dad and I, kind of thing, you know, like we're going to do it like that. And it's like, let's see who can get there. And one of the kids was way speedier than I thought. And I was like, nope, you can go. You can be pulling back on that head start.
I made a mistake. Go back to the start again, buddy.
But it's like interesting, because sometimes in life we can feel like other people got a head start. And it can feel so unfair and so like... Your family was better and it got more things right, and I'm way back here and you're way in front. But it's like, at the end of the day, it actually, not that it doesn't matter, because it does matter in regards to validation, and that's real and that feels deep. But actually growth is still 100% on us, and we still have to overcome our growth barriers. No one gives us a free pass and goes, you know what? Your life was really hard, Isaac. You had so many more dysfunctions than Jemma, and here you go. Here's a free pass on 3 of them. That just doesn't happen. Or it doesn't go, you know, Jemma, you had this challenge, but Joe didn't, and so you get a free pass. It's like, unfortunately, which I just think is really hard.
It is. It really is.
To go, oh, I've got to go, well, yeah, I really did struggle with insecurity, not just in one thing, but in 700 things. Or I have a dysfunctional family history, and there's so many things in which to grow in. But I also think what's cool is, like we said before, that there's communities that you can find. There's also people's lives that have come through things that can be your hope.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean? Because like it can be like that finish line is so far away. Like, how do I get to be that healthy, functioning, whole person? Can feel nearly quite depressive as it looks all the way down there, and other people feel like they've got a head start. But
I even think even talking about the awareness of your family history, maybe it was dysfunctional, or maybe it's left you embedded in an environment where maybe you feel as though you should end up this way, but you're looking at the way you feel as though you should end up, and you're not quite satisfied with how that looks. And I think as we were talking about that, I thought quite a bit about the best commentary of poor is better, right? So when someone experiences a community that isn't that, or maybe people that aren't that, it shines a little bit brighter. And then when you begin to reflect that same nature, that same attitude, that only just illuminates things more and more in your home life, right? And begins to show that there is maybe a different way of thinking. It also makes me think of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man or woman, I put the ways of childhood behind me. I think it was the first thoughts that popped in my head. One of the biggest stages of maturity for me, becoming an adult, becoming a man, was realizing that my parents are flawed just as much as me. And the context and environment that I was brought up in inherently, because we create of ourselves, right? We're limited in that nature, right? That means the environment, the context is flawed as well, right? So there is certain things that I'm going to struggle with in ways that other people are not going to struggle with. And I think regularly to people who are succeeding in areas of life that I would wish to. And I'm like, wow, I wish I was doing that, or I wish I had that discipline around my musicianship. But I recognize as well now that, you know, I was brought up in a certain context that built me how I am.
Yes.
And another stage of my maturity was realizing that everyone is just dealt a specific hand of cards, and it's our job to kind of be aware of what we've been
dealt. And they're all
dealt.
very different.
Yes,
Very different, but everyone has a bit of a flawed hand of cards, right? They're all very different to each other. So to kind of be like sneaking over, you know, in Uno where you're trying to win and you just like, oh, what you got there, Jemma? Oh, you got a +4. Oh no, I'm not going to +4 her. So like sometimes we might want to sneak at other people's hand of cards that they got and compare ours to theirs. But at the end of the day, a game of Uno isn't decided by who has the best cards. It's who knows how to use the cards they've got the best, right? And that's something that I'm super aware in myself, but also in the young adults that I've had discussions with. Like I'll catch up with them and chat about their lives with them. And there's a young adult I have in my mind as well. It's a bit of a dysfunctional background. You know, things have gone on, and they've been left in a certain space of also a bit of dysfunction. And as I've been chatting with them, it was profound, because the awareness they had on their dysfunction and their limitations as to like, oh, I get socially anxious when this happens because this happened when I was when I was growing up. This is the family value that we had. So now when I go into social situations, I carry that value, even though the people in that social group that I'm trying to interact with don't have that value, right? And and this young adult will say things like, oh, and I could retreat from that social context because it's not set up for me to succeed in, but I want to succeed in that environment. So I'm going to adapt, be flexible, change myself in little ways so that I can flourish in that environment. It's way easier for other people to flourish in that environment because of the hand of cards that they've been dealt, right? But this person's awareness of the hand of cards that they've been dealt is just a massive stage of maturity. It's as in, again, when I was a child, I talked like a child. But now that I'm not a child, I put those things behind me, right? One of those things, again, is that my parents are flawed, and then I've got a flawed hand of cards as well that I've just got to learn to play really well with, because that's what's going to determine my success in the future.
Absolutely.
So in that, like, there's a million ways in which there are growth barriers for us in like mental and emotional areas. If you were to look at your lives or the lives of those that, again, you have the privilege of ministering to, what do you feel like are some of the like hot tips that, like, if I've got this, you know, hand of cards, or I'm feeling like my race is really long, or I have a lot to grow through, or I just have one barrier even, what is it that you guys, this is a real key in order for people to overcome growth? And it could be to a particular barrier, or it could just be in general.
I feel like one thing is definitely just finding someone else who's winning in the area that you are lacking in, and really just almost coming under them and being like, teach me your ways. How do you do this? How do you win in this area? Because other people are carrying the knowledge that you need most of the time. So I feel like that's one of the number one things for me. Have you got any thoughts, Isaac?
Inviting feedback.
Oh yeah.
Inviting feedback into your life from
underrated. I think underrated.
Underrated. I think I've changed very much for the better the moment someone was like, "Hey mate, you don't really ask for feedback that much," and I'm like, "Oh, you're right. I don't. That's even that feedback. I didn't even ask for that feedback. But like, I'm glad someone had enough trust that I wouldn't respond poorly to say that to me. And when you invite feedback into situations from a friend or a family member or a mentor, a trusted, again, someone who's succeeding in the area, when you invite their feedback in a sense of humbleness, like humility is a better word to use. Actually, humility is the actual word. When you approach someone in that way, it does provide freedom a little bit more in that area, because you're now in the self-reflection stage, right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
if in the privilege of being young adults pastor, I've had again many discussions, and I see the young adults that flourish are the ones who are self-reflective in many areas of their life,
Yeah, great point.
especially when it comes to social things, when it comes to their mental or emotional state, their spiritual state, when they're self-reflective. And because they're self-reflective, like, oh, wow, I need someone else's perspective that isn't mine to speak into the areas. It's the classic thing. Oh, you don't know. You really want someone to tell you if your fly's down when you're walking around, and you'd hate to be walking up on.
I know someone that's
Yeah,
good at that for encounter.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
yeah. But like, you would really hate to walk up on a stage and have your fly down, and you didn't realize because you didn't ask for
And
someone
there's
to be
so
watching
many
out
things
for
we
you.
don't know.
So
Oh,
true.
yeah.
And even in our own self-reflection, I remember a time in my life where I wasn't actually doing so well, but I remember thinking, you can't preach yourself out of this. Like, my own knowledge and experience and wisdom has kind of like, it's got to its end. And so it's like, in some ways, our own self-reflective process, having an external voice to go, but how are you really going? Or what about this? Did you think about this? And you go, no, I hadn't thought about it like that. Or, you know, and it does, that external feedback does really kind of carve out a new way of thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the other thing that comes to mind when it comes to trying to sort of rearrange that hand of cards that you've been given and figure out, okay, like, you know, this is where I am, this is where I want to be. My other thing that I love to harp on about is just taking baby steps, as in having those little steps of like, this is my thing, that's just outside my comfort zone, so it is forcing me to grow, but it's not so far outside of my comfort zone that it's going to cause me to crumble.
Lose the plot.
Exactly, that it's going to reinforce all of the thoughts that I was already having, and then we're back to square one.
That's a good point. Really.
Crash and burn terrifically.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think we all know how we feel about this. No.
But I think just being so aware of where you are and where you want to be, and even though it can feel like there's such a massive chasm between those two things, being like, well, the goal is to just be getting a little bit better today than I was yesterday, and figuring out what those little baby steps are.
Yeah, which is good one.
Yeah,
breaking it down.
I even think it seems like a tangent. I swear. It's not. I swear. I'll
We'll be
right.
Isaac and tangents aren't. They're pretty synonymous.
Okay, you guys have anyone who's played a video game before, you know, when you buy your base pack of the video game, if you want more content for that game, they might release something called a DLC, which is downloadable content, right?
Yeah.
And what it will do, it'll add little extra chapters to the game that you're already playing, right? I think that for any young person, but I would say for anyone in general, right? There's a lot that happens when you get that self-reflection DLC.
Oh yeah,
right?
Come on.
And it's just a way that it's an extra chapter that then, with a lot of DLC in video games, what will happen is it might actually change the core functioning of the game and may allow you to look back at the game from a different light because you've got more information now, or you've got a new part of the story that added more context to an earlier part, right? So it paints your original experience a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Self-reflection is a bit of a DLC because it paints your old experiences in a new light. It's not all just face value. It's something that you can learn from now. So I swear it wasn't tangent.
No, that's good. That wasn't a tangent. I hear that. So really, I mean, there are 1,000 things that we could list that are fractures and fracturing and stop us from going.
Yes.
But like we've kind of said, is we have the responsibility really to own our own growth journey. And like Jemma said, we can find those people in our story that we go, hey, you're winning and I'm going to run behind you, run with you, ask you questions. And I feel like sometimes that can be a little bit intimidating, right? Because one, we think
Yes.
people, if they're going to care, but it's like, well, you never know till you ask.
Yeah.
And then also, you don't have to catch up with the same person forever. Like, it could
Yeah,
be, hey, I just
definitely.
want to have one coffee. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be intimidating. And
Yeah.
so I would even say in your church context, whether you're in Encounter Church or not, any good community, it could even be family, is like, just ask the question. Like,
Yes.
it's not going to hurt. And then the other thing is obviously the feedback and the DLC of going, hey, I need another perspective, and that
Yeah.
will alter the game.
Yes.
And then I think, like Jem was saying too, just small steps,
Yeah.
unless it's actually achievable and realistic and not kind of out there airy fairy. Otherwise, we'll keep looping. So yeah, do you have something final, Dad?
Yeah, I feel like it final because it's an interesting dynamic because one of those fractures can be insecurity. So when people are wanting to invite feedback in, or they're wanting to be self-reflective, there's that insecure feeling of like, oh, but when I open those damn gates, the
like
water's
the
going to
growth
start.
barrier comes in
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
It's and then I'm just going to be inundated with all this insecurity, this anxiety. But realistically, what happens when you find someone to be vulnerable with? Your world doesn't get smaller, as if their critics, their critiques is going to pour onto you. No, when you're vulnerable with someone and ask for for their feedback, your world doesn't get smaller; it just gets bigger, right? Because then they have the opportunity to comment on how to do things better, not to pile on, oh, you're doing these things horribly, right? Because the whole point is for growth, right? So even in that insecurity of I don't think I can just invite someone to talk into my life in that way. Oh, there's just too many things going on. And feeling of maybe my world's getting a little bit smaller and harder to deal with when realistically, like that trusted figure to ask questions, it only expands your world. It's not something to be afraid of, but something to invite in.
Yeah.
But it has to be invited in.
Yeah.
It really does have to be invited
Yeah,
in.
that's
So good.
Jemma, any final words?
Nothing from me.
Well, it's really good reflections. And if you're out there and you've got a growth area that you're wanting to grow in, maybe just self-reflect on some of these things that we've just talked about. But thanks for stopping by. To stay connected with us, it's Encounter Church TV on YouTube and Encounter Church AU on Instagram. We're all about leading lives that leave love in our wake. So until next time, maybe we can find ways to do just that. Bye for now.